Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about acronyms when it comes to, we're going to talk about the auto industry, but acronyms, right, for different types of loan products. Everybody knows what an MBS is, right, when we're talking about financial products because of what happened in 2008. An MBS stands for mortgage-backed security. That's a really bad, ugly word, right, because everybody saw after the Great Recession started in 2008 how mortgage-backed securities bundled up, collateralized, put out into pension funds and put out into the universe, right? The stock market caused literally the stock market to crater, cut it in half. Massive financial institutions like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns go completely bankrupt, close their doors. Countrywide Finance, Washington Mutual, places like that, big banks, big lending institutions, houses completely disappear, right? Well, not a lot of people understand what a CLO is, or a collateralized loan obligation. And we're going to talk about the auto industry right now. And I'm going to actually quote a book from a subscriber right now, a couple of paragraphs. And I think it's very important. People ask me all the time what I read and things like that. And a subscriber sent me a book. And it's great because it's got lots of big words and it's very easy to read. Not I mean big words, but big lettering. It's a very easy read. A couple of days it would take most people to read it. But what's really neat, and here we're gonna just show you right now. That's what it looks like. It's entitled "Survive and Thrive in the Coming Pension Fund Apocalypse," and it's written by Lee Rendell. Lee Rendell, Rendel, and he sent me this book. And I got to be honest with you, he sent it to me like 6 months ago, and he reminded me. So you said you were gonna talk about it, and read it, and let me know what you think. I just got around to it, and I went through it in a day. Really easy reading, and it is probably one of the best, well put, comprehensive books on just finance. Everything from essentially the pension apocalypse that has already started, but it literally brings you from everything from the Great Depression to cryptocurrency, what the different types of money supplies are, being M1, M2, M3, things like that. Some really neat fundamentals. If you don't know anything about economics, but you know there's something wrong, I'm going to be honest with you. Check this book out and buy this book and read it. You will absolutely be blessed. I am very impressed with the general overview of all these different topics. I mean, it talks about hyperinflations with Germany and how much gold went up in the 40s, in the 20s. Just amazing stuff. We're going to talk about collateralized loan obligations. And sorry, I'm not getting anything to talk about this, but when you see good information, you want to share it. And Lee has done an amazing job with this book. So check this out. It says right here, I'll just read this from you. I mean, it literally reads like a script. I wish I could just use this as scripts. So right here it says, banks take mortgages and bundle them together in something called CMOs, or collateralized mortgage obligations. Let me stop there real quick. The term, not credit default swaps, but mortgage-backed securities, they were so bad, they had such a bad stigma, they actually changed it way back when, after the Great Recession, and turned them into CMOs, collateralized mortgage obligations, okay? So they're all the exact same thing as MBSs, and it's even worse today than it was back then. Trust me, and there's some crazy stuff happening, but go follow the Real Estate Ninja on that kind of stuff. These CMOs are packaged together and sold to institutions that repackage them into bonds and sell them to pension funds. Here you go. Check this out about the auto industry. The same thing happens with car loans. When somebody buys a car and they sign the final page of the document on an auto loan, they just expanded M3. We'll talk about M3, M1, and M2 later. But they just expanded that portion of the money supply of the planet. Now that loan gets pooled together with other car loans in something called a CLO. CLOs are collateralized loan obligations. And again, it's collateralized because the car is the collateral, right? And let's not forget CDOs, which are collateralized debt obligations used for smaller loans. Also the same with CLOs and CMOs. Now, this is what's very, very important. We talked the other day about the sheer amount of vehicles right now that are being repossessed, right? It is absolutely massive. So many people took their stimulus checks and they went and bought their dream car. They are now being repossessed. Not only because they shouldn't have bought them in the first place because they were really big car payments, right? People are paying literally upwards of $1,000 a month because you're putting down the bare minimum on these cars, right? 10, 15%, let's say. which I'm sure I haven't had a car loan in so long. It's crazy, but you know, it wasn't a lot they were putting down. They weren't putting down 20%. But then these cars were like $60,000, $70,000, right, for a you know, a souped up Charger or a Ford truck, Chevy truck. And then they were paying these massive payments, and then inflation set in. And all of a sudden, either between inflation, unemployment, or underemployment, people couldn't make their payments. So now they're being repossessed now, right? Well, the problem is these loans were at one point packaged up and they were sold to your pension fund. And this is about to be a very, very big issue. I would imagine within the next 12 months, you are about to see literally a loan apocalypse blow up with all of these loans people can't pay, right? It's not only that, banks can hide things. And I don't think people understand that very well, because banks were hiding the sheer amount of people that were not paying their mortgages way back in 2005 and hiding it. They're like, hey, we'll work with you. Let's keep everything going. You know, let us get just a couple bucks out of you. We'll try and see what's going to happen next month. Are you going to get a job? Are you going to get more employment? Things like that. They hid it and hid it and hid it. It took 3-4 years for it finally to hit the street and explode, right? Well, right now, to me, the size of and I don't have the sheer numbers in front of me, but the size of the auto loan industry, I believe you're about to see a bubble almost the size of what happened in the mortgage industry back in the early 2000s. I know it sounds crazy, but you have to remember too, the sheer amount, how much the cars cost. Now, let me give you a little bit of an example. As of right now, to go buy a full-size truck costs you about what, $100,000, right? Loaded, nice, 100,000 bucks. My first house, which was almost brand new in California, a really nice house, 1,900 square foot, or sorry, 1,800 square foot, stucco, concrete roof, new construction home in California, in one of the nicest places in California. In the year 2001, when I bought it, it cost $250,000. As of right now, to give you an idea, like people are like, no, there's no way that the car industry, the loan issues could be anywhere near real estate. Think about this. A truck costs almost half of what my new home cost in 2001, right? Couple that with how much interest you're paying on it. And you start to think, you know, there are families not only with one car payment, but two. So there are some families, there's some, not a lot, there are families out there carrying possibly up to $200,000. Now just think about that, right? I think that you're about to see in the next coming year an absolute meltdown because of the sheer amount of people that are not paying their car payments. Now, sure, the bank's going to be able to repossess them, and they're working on it right now, right? They're going to be able to sell them and recover some of the money, but not all of it. And the problem is, it's really a game of who's going to be first to the exit. Which bank is going to start to liquidate these cars? Because like in the video I told you a few days ago when I was talking to somebody that actually is watching these go for bid, go on the auction block, and the banks, since they need to recover so much money, right? But there's no buyers at the dealerships. They're asking too much. The dealers aren't bidding on them, and they just go right off the assembly line essentially at the auction and go back into the parking lot and go there for storage for another, you know, couple weeks. That's going to end. At a certain point, there's going to be a bank that heads for the exit. And I think it's very important for people to realize that. When that happens, then the next bank's going to panic and start to sell. Then another one. And it's going to become a snowball effect. It'll be great for those of us that have been saving up for a new car and want to get a car at a good deal. Because banks are very, at a certain point, they're not emotional. But right now, they're emotional because they've got shareholders to answer to, they've got a board to answer to, and they do not want to take all these large write-downs, right? Problem is, with time, each month they're missing out on a payment, right? They're missing out a little bit. They're not paying attention to how much equity they're losing in those cars because those cars are starting to go down in value. They're just looking right now, oh, it's just a couple months behind. Oh, it's just 3 months behind, all that stuff. The problem is it's stacking up because as those cars sit in the lot and wait for a buyer, there's more cars that are being repoed that people owe money on right now. And so that problem is actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I talked to a person a couple weeks back that said, I had this car payment. It was $800. I couldn't afford it. I had to give it back to the bank, and I went and bought a beater. And he goes, I'm happy now. Credit's shot. But he had to do it because everything's getting so expensive. His electricity's going through the roof, and there's issues there. So I want people to think about when we're talking the size of these bubbles, that the car industry has taken on a whole new meaning right now when it comes to a debt bubble because of the sheer amount, not only of car payments that were made or loans in the last few years and since the pandemic started, but also the sheer size of the loans, the dollar amounts. And again, I wanna give credit to Lee. I think this book is amazing. If you guys don't have an economics background, but you wanna learn about finance and what's going on in the history of what's been going on in the world about finance, check this out. This is a very thin book. I think it's a great read. And again, want to thank Lee for sending this to me. I think it's awesome. All right, guys, that being said, I hope you got something out of this. The Economic Ninja is out.